going to be two sections. In the first section, we are going to focus on learning what are the common quant mistakes that people do and how you should avoid those quant mistakes. And this part of the webinar is going to be about 80 to 90 minutes long. We're going to solve at least 6 questions on different areas to learn that. And then I'll open it up for an open-ended Q&A for the last 10 minutes of the webinar. Okay. Now, what are the common traps? Like, again, I'm just giving you an overview of the common traps. Then we will gonna discuss them in depth through questions. So generally, the common traps that are set on GMAT fall in 2 categories. One are the concept gaps, where you are, let's say, there are certain aspects of specific special properties of concepts which can actually be used to trick you to fall into a trap. It can be from any topic which is there. The other one, and the bigger problem which people generally don't focus a lot on, are the process gaps, like missing the constraint or lack of analysis or lack of visualization like this. So we will actually try and cover all these traps in the next 6 questions. So without any further ado, let's get started with this question. So you have the question in front of you. I'm going to give you a minute and a half to solve this question. And after, like, you will have a poll where you can choose your answer. And once you have solved the question, we will actually solve it together. Okay, so all the best for this question, guys. You have a minute and a half to solve it. I might give 2 minutes also, depending on how the response of the batch is. Okay, so here you go, guys. You have the poll in front of you. I'm gonna be muted for a minute and a half at least. All the best. Ending the poll now. I've given about a couple of minutes for all of you to solve this question. So let me end this poll. Okay, so how was this question, guys? How did you find this question? Let's see, get some initial responses from you. Let's see, how did you find this question overall? Just to tell you the attempt data, A, B seem to be very less popular among people. Only 3% of people voted for A and B respectively. C is probably the 3rd most popular choice. D is the most popular choice. Most of you think that D is the correct answer, and about 22% of you think E is the correct answer. But I would like to know, how did you find this question? Please feel free to tell me in chat over here. Okay, I've enabled public messages also. Okay, Anand says it's easy. Sai also found it easy. Amna found it easy. Sudeep says this is a trap question. Gagan says it is an easy question. Nitin says C is the answer. Okay, but how did you find the question basically? So honestly speaking, this is an easy question, to be honest. It's like, I can say that this is probably a 600 level question, but just because the trap that is there probably becomes a 650 level question in my opinion. So answer is not C, Nitin. Answer is not C. C is, so anyone who has marked A, B, and C, there are a lot of conceptual gaps in your understanding, and we'll talk about that. People who have marked D and E, again, most popular choices. People who marked with D fell for a trap. The right answer in this case is choice E. Okay, we'll talk about that. Again, the objective is not to get the right answer, but the objective is to learn something from the question. And again, this, you know that this webinar is about traps, so probably you'll be a lot more careful when you are answering the questions in this webinar. But still, the objective is to learn what is there to learn. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that people do in this question is that when they read the question, before even reading the question, they look at this diagram and they start thinking that L1 and L2 are parallel lines. They assume that L1 and L2 are parallel just because it seems like in the diagram they seem like parallel. But if you read the question, it says in the below figure, L1, L2, and M are 3 straight lines. They don't say that L1 and L2 are parallel. They're just saying that L1, L2 are L1, L2, and M are 3 straight lines. We don't know whether they're parallel or not. And just by looking at the diagram, I should not assume that these are parallel. Okay, let me ask why. Let me ask you guys why. Or let me rather answer it. See, it might seem like parallel, but it is possible that they're just slightly inclined. I cannot assume by just looking at the diagram that they are parallel. You should never do that. If GMAT wants to provide that information to you, they will clearly mention that L1 and L2 are parallel. They will either write it clearly in the sentence itself, in the question itself, or they will use this symbol of two parallel lines, writing in that way. Are you getting my point? Is this clear to all of you guys? Let me ask in a poll, quick yes, no over here. Is this clear to all of you guys? Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this, please let me know if this is clear. If this is clear, say yes. If it's not clear, say no. I'm just talking about the aspect that they're parallel or not. Is this clear to you guys that you cannot assume that they're parallel just because they look like parallel? Similarly, another big mistake that people do in geometry is they see a triangle created like this and they will automatically assume that this is a right angle triangle. You cannot assume that. Just because a triangle looks like a right angle triangle, you cannot assume that it is right angle. If GMAT has to tell you that it is a right angle triangle, they'll mention that in the sentence or the question stem, or they will create an angle like this. This is the symbol of a right angle triangle. They will create an angle like this to tell you that this is a right angle triangle. Okay, so they will provide that information. Never ever assume something in the diagram just because it looks like that. Okay, you have to have proper basis of understanding that. So those of you who assumed that probably made a big mistake. So those of you who assumed it thought that, okay, we are talking about two parallel lines, L1 and L2, and this M is a transversal. And since we are looking at the value of C minus D, which are two angles over here, we just need to find value of one angle. If we find the value of one angle, all we have to do is subtract that one from 180 degrees to get the value of another one, and then it's easy. And in order to get the value of any one of these angles, even if you know the value of the alternate angle or even the corresponding angle, that will help, because this angle C is going to be equal to B, which is the alternate angle, and it is also equal to A, which is a corresponding angle. But only if L1 and L2 are parallel. If they are not parallel, I cannot really assume anything. Now, if I look at statement 1, it tells me that A is 110. It only tells me that A is 110. Now, A is 110. This is fine. All I can infer from this is that this angle is 70 degrees because it is on a straight line. And I can also infer that angle B is 110 also, because they are vertically opposite angles, right? I don't need to know anything else. If I know A is 110, I know that A and B are equal because they are vertically opposite. So in fact, those of you who marked A, B, or C as the correct answer have a conceptual gap as well. So about 17% of you don't know that vertically opposite angles are always equal. So there is no new information which is provided in statement 2. Statement 1 and statement 2 are exactly the same. So anyone who marks A, B, or C, they think that there is different information provided between statement 1 and statement 2. So 17% of you fall for a conceptual trap over here. Okay, and this kind of things happen on the GMAT. Many a times they will give you two statements which exactly present the same information but in different manner. Okay, so those of you who marked A, B, and C have fallen for that trap. But remember that all I can infer from this information in statement 1 or statement 2 is the value of A, B, and the other angles around it. I cannot infer anything about C and D. So correct answer in this case is choice C, which only 22% of you got right, even though this was a 650 level question. And this became a 650 level question only because of this trap which is there. Otherwise, this is maximum a 600 level question, a direct application of concepts, nothing more than this. So you could see that even a very simple looking question can become really tricky if you're not really cognizant, or you're not really very focused, and you're not reading things properly, and you're assuming things a lot. That can happen with you. So the most important, let's quickly jump to the learnings from this question. You should know the properties of parallel lines and angles. This is one very important learning, because remember, 17% of the class still marked A, B, and C, which means that you do not know the basic properties also about the parallel lines and angles. Then do not assume that lines are parallel just because they look like that in the diagram. And not just about parallel lines. You do not assume anything from the diagram just because it looks like that from the diagram. As I said, if L1 and L2 are parallel, it will be mentioned in the question 10 that they are parallel, or there will be a sign like this to tell you they are parallel. With that, let's move to another question. Let's move to the next question, guys. Again, for this question, I'm giving you a couple of minutes to solve. I'm going to be muted for those 2 minutes, and all the best for this question. And after 2 minutes, we'll start the discussion. All the best. You have the poll here. Guys, just a second. There is one change that I need to make in this question. My bad. Just give me 1 second, guys, and I'll then bring back the question to you. Just give me 1 second, guys. Actually, the question was slightly different earlier. I have made a small change to it. Just want to make sure that this one is fine. So sorry for that, guys. The question should be up on your screen now. So I've just made a small change in the question in statement 1. So please assume that you're just starting the question. Okay, start it afresh. You have 2 minutes now to solve it. All the best. Okay, guys. So 2 minutes are over by now, but I'm giving another 20 seconds maybe. I see only few people have answered this question. So you have 20 seconds more to answer this question. If you haven't done so, please do that now. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll now. Last 10 seconds. And those who have answered the question, can you tell me how did you find this question in the chat quickly? How did you find this question? I've ended the poll now. So how was this question? Okay. Okay. Jasleen has mentioned something in the chat, but Jasleen, both the cases that you're talking about are not possible. Okay, Nitin found it easy. Anubha found it very easy. Okay, what about others, guys? This is, honestly speaking, this is a tricky question. I would say somewhere between 650 to 700 level again. The question was much more easier earlier on. I just made a change to the statement 1, and now it has become definitely 650 to 700, maybe just touching 700 level as well. Okay, Vipal says it was tricky because I just realized my mistake. A tricky question, but doable. That's what Blessing says. Okay, good. Just like the previous question, looks easy with a trap. Okay. So again, let me quickly let's look at how many people went for each choice. Let me actually put it on each option itself. So 23% people went with choice A. 2% of you went with choice B. How many went with choice C? Okay, 14% went with choice C. Then I have 5% people going for choice D, and 52% people went for choice E. Okay, let's hold our horses to understand which one is the correct answer, because for us it is very important to understand the approach, more important than anything else. So let's understand the approach, let's understand the learning which is there from this question, and then let's see what is the right answer. So Ashni, if you cannot hear me, probably there's a issue at your end, because I am speaking right now. I'm just going to reply to you. Yes, I'm speaking. If anyone cannot hear me, please try rejoining. That sometimes helps, because my voice is audible to, I guess, all of you. Just want to ensure very quickly that my voice is audible still to all of you. Can you guys tell me in the chat quickly, in the poll, sorry, in the poll? Can you guys hear me clearly? Okay. Great. So I can see that almost all of you can hear me. So let's continue. So let's solve this question one step at a time. So let's see what I know. I know that M is a 3-digit positive odd integer. Okay, focus on this word. It's a positive and odd integer. So if I assume that M is written as A, B, and C, ABC, what I can know from this is, number one, ABC are single digit numbers. They are single digit numbers. Okay. The second thing I know is that C is odd. I know that C is odd. This is the kind of inference that I can draw from the information given in the question in the beginning. What else is given, or rather asked? What is the units digit of M? Now, what is the units digit? It is C. So I have to find out the value of C. I have to find out the value of C. All I know about C is that it is odd. That's the information which is provided to me. Now let's move to statement 1 with this information in place. The first statement says that the product of the 100, tens, and units digit, which is basically the product of all 3 digits, which is nothing but A multiplied by B multiplied by C. I can write it as ABC itself. Okay, ABC is 48. Now, whenever you see that the product of 3 numbers is 48, if I have to infer anything about those 3 numbers, what is my usual approach? What do I do? Now, many people, how they go about doing it is they will try to find out random combinations that, okay, 2 into 4 into 6 or whatever, like 8 into 2 into 3 or whatever. So they try to randomly do this sometimes, but I strongly object following this methodology, because if you randomly take numbers and try to break it down, you can make a mistake, you can skip something, you can miss something which might affect your score and accuracy on the question. So anytime when you have to break this number down into A, B, and C, the easiest way or the best way to do that is to prime factorize this number first. If I prime factorize this, I know that this number is equal to 2 to the power 4 multiplied by 3. Okay, we can know that 2 to the power 4 multiplied by 3. Now, basically, again, Nitin, you can check which odd integers are factors of 48. That is also possible, but that's what I'm recommending to you to do over here, that you have to prime factorize the value of AB, like 48, to easily divide, like find out the various possible values of A, B, and C. And when you are doing that, try to actually go in a very, very organized manner. And remember that we are talking about ABC, C is odd. So C can be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, any of these numbers. Why is this important? This is important because many times what people do is that they end up just assuming that C can be equal to 3. They miss that C can also be equal to 1. That is one mistake that people do. So never ever make that mistake. Remember, guys. So Sudeep, my audio is clear. I guess the issue is at your end. Probably you have to check once at your end. But you have to understand in this case that there are two possible values of C, 1 and 3. But let's see if it is possible or not. If I take, let me write A, B, and C over here. So I would start by taking C as 1. When I start by taking C as 1, I know that I have to distribute 2 to the power 4 and 3 between A and B. Now, there can be multiple ways of doing that. One way of doing that is I can distribute 2 to the power 4 over here and 3 over here. Again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to start with the smallest possible number for B. Okay, so if I take B as 3, A can be 2 to the power 4. But what 2 to the power 4 means is it is 16, which is not possible because A, B, C are single digit numbers. So this case is not possible. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to understand that I cannot have B is equal to 3. Okay, I need to have a bigger number. So I would not take 3. I would rather give it 2 into 3, which is 6. So in that case, 2 cube is left, which is 8 for the value of A. Again, it can be A or B, doesn't matter. I'm interested more in the value of C. So one case possible is A, B, C are A and B is 8 and 6 in any order, and C is equal to 1. Okay. Can I have another scenario? Instead of 6, can I try to give 3 2 2s? Can I try to give 3 2 2s? If I try to do that, I will end up with 12, which is again a double digit number, so it is not possible. So with 1, I can only have one case, which is 8 and 6. Now I will try giving the value of C as 3. Now why am I starting with C? Because it's easy for me to start with C. I know that C is odd. So if 3 is coming over here, then I have to distribute 2 to the power 4 amongst A and B. Again, I will start with the lowest value possible for B. What is the lowest value possible for B? Can anyone tell me what is the lowest possible value for B? Again, lowest possible factor of any number can be 1. So I can start with 1, but in that case, A will be equal to 2 to the power 4, which is again 16. So that is not possible. So the lowest value of B possible is 2. In that case, I can have the value of A as 8. Okay. Let me actually bring it below. Okay. And another scenario which is possible is I can give a value of 4 to B. Then I will have a value of 4 to A as well. So these are 3 scenarios. Again, what you have to understand is that over here, I can actually have this any combination of A and B, but I need to keep C constant. So for example, I can also have this number 681. Okay, similarly, I can also have this number 283. Okay, similarly, I can also have again 4 and 4 are same, so I cannot replace it. So there are a total of 5 cases which are possible. In each of these cases, the product of hundreds, tens, and units digit is 48. 48. Okay, and the unit digit is odd. All right, so these are 5 cases which are possible. Now let me ask you guys, when you were solving this question, how many of you were able to create all these 5 cases? How many of you were able to create all these 5 cases from statement 1 alone? How many of you were able to create all these 5 cases? Tell me, guys. When you're solving this question yourself, not right now, when you're solving this question yourself, were you able to find out that statement 1 means we can have the number as 681, 861, 823, 283, and 443. All these 5 cases are possible. How many of you calculated, like found all these 5 cases? Again, very important, guys. This is actually one of the traps in this question. If you do not go methodically, if you do not find all the cases, you will end up marking one of the wrong answers. And like, it's not surprising that many of you have gone ahead with A as well. Okay, Mayur, that is one thing which a lot of people do. They try with both statements first, but you should never do that unless you are sure that there are multiple cases which are possible with statement A. So again, Anubhav, you can find things directly. Again, with more experience, you can do that. But initial phases, you should try and find all cases. And it won't take you a lot of time to find this, to be honest. It will just take you maybe 5 seconds extra to do this. Okay, so I'm thankful for everyone to being very honest over here. 1/3 of you did it, 2/3 of you did not. Okay, so again, Nitin, it's fine. If you're able to understand that there are 2 cases possible, then you can go to statement 2, but in your learning phase, probably you can still find out all the cases just for a learning purpose, just to ensure that maybe if you don't want to do it at the time of solving the question, later on also, you should try and do that so that you are able to find out all possible scenarios in a systematic manner. And what I wanted you to learn more importantly was how I was approaching it to understand all the cases. Okay, now clearly statement 1 is not sufficient because there are multiple values of C which is possible. I can have C is equal to 1. C can be 1, C can be 3 as well. Okay, so there are 2 possible values of C. So I cannot answer this question from statement 1. Okay, let's look at statement 2. Statement 2 alone only tells me about the tens digits of M. Again, many people are not able to disassociate themselves. This is another big mistake that people do in DS. They're not able to disassociate themselves with the information in statement 1. But you should always do that. If I just look at statement 2, it tells me that the tens digit is 8. It does not tell me anything about the units digit. So statement B alone is definitely not sufficient to answer this question. So anyone who marks statement B alone is sufficient, or statement B, like each statement alone is sufficient, they definitely miss this particular aspect, that it is only telling us about the tens digit, not the units digit. And those who mark statement A, I'm pretty sure that you did not take into account the case that C could also be equal to 1. There is a conceptual mistake, which is there, conceptual error that you have in mind. The minimum factor of a number could be 1. So you did not consider C as an odd number. C could be an odd number also. So you did not consider that particular case altogether. Okay, so remember this part, guys. Now, if I combine both pieces of information also, if I know that the tens digit is 8, I'm still getting 2 possible cases, 681 and 283. In both these scenarios, in both these numbers, 681 and 283, the tens digit is 8, but still the value of the unit digit is different. In one case it is 1, in one case it is 3. So I cannot still answer or find a unique value for the unit digit. And that's why the statement C is also the wrong answer. Those of you who answered C probably again did not consider all the cases which were there. You probably missed out either with this one part, that probably did not miss out on one, because otherwise you would have answered A as the option, but you probably missed, you did not try juggling between these two, or you did not think of this case 283 at all. You only thought of 443 as the case. Okay, so remember, in this case E is the correct answer. We cannot answer this. Again, another question with E as the correct answer, but the current statement is not sufficient. So remember, guys, what is the important learning from every question? I want you to take a learning. Important learning here is that do not forget the constraint. Do not forget that we are talking about an odd number in this case. Okay, you should be comfortable by making cases, and always take cases in a systematic order. Again, this in the original question, the value was 192, which Shakib used to do. I have changed this to 48. but the idea remains the same. You have to take cases in a organized manner. Okay, so this is very, very important. Let's now move to the third question today, guys. This is the third question, another important lesson coming your way. So here, the question is here in front of you. You have a minute and a half to solve this question, or 2 minutes maximum. So all the best for this question, guys. And I'm going to be muted. Okay, guys, so I've given more than a minute and a half for this question. I'll give another 10 seconds for you guys to answer this question. So in the meantime, those who have answered it, feel free to share your thoughts about this question in the chat. Okay, I think the 10 seconds are over. I'm ending the poll now. Okay, guys. So again, this was I would say, a 600 to 650 level question, maybe just touching 650. Definitely much easier than the previous one. But I'm happy to see your responses, your let's say the answers. It tells me that you are now benefiting from the session. You're able to openly understand like the traps that GMAT is setting for you, and you're able to implement that as well. Because this is somewhere very similar to question number 1 in the kind of the trap about assumption. Okay, so I'm really, really happy that you guys were able to see this trap, and I'm happy to see that about 63% of you went with A, and then I have a exact 9% of you going with the other option choices. So let's see, let's solve this question and let's see which is the right answer. So what I know is if P and Q are 2 points on XY coordinate axis. So generally when that is given to me, I will try to draw those things. So P is 0, -2. So P is, let's call it somewhere over here. So this is P, 0, -2, and Q is 0, 3. So if I try to create it like this, Q is 0, 3. So this is basically, these are 2 points P and Q. Which of the following must be true? What you need to understand here is this is a must be true kind of a question. So I have to pick the options or the statements which are always true, not sometimes true. I need to pick the cases which are always true. So let's look at that. The first statement says the line segment, the length of the line segment, which is equal to PQ, is 5 units. Now, obviously, the distance between 2 points is always constant. When I say distance between 2 points is always constant, I'm talking about the minimum distance, obviously. And it can be easily found out by using this formula, x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus y2 whole square under root. Okay, so if I try and do that, I can understand. In fact, for this these points, I don't need to even put in that much effort, because it's much more easier in this case to find the value. It's actually 5 units. It's a straight line, so it's 5 units. But if you want to use this formula also, you can use this formula to get the value as 5 units. Okay, so clearly statement 1 is correct. It's always true. The distance between the two lines is 5 units. Okay, the distance between the 2 points rather is 5 units. Let's look at statement 2, whether statement 2 is right or not. Now, those of you who marked, in this case, who marked B and C, okay, I have a big, I have big concerns for you. Those of you who marked B and C felt that the line segment is not of the length 5 units, then there is a conceptual gap in your understanding. You don't know this formula at all. Okay, so those of you marked B and C, please take note of this formula. This is what you need to know in order to answer this question. Now let's look at statement 2. Statement 2 says the area of the right angle triangle with PQ as its hypotenuse. Okay, so I know that the length of PQ is 5. What it says is, if a right angle triangle is created with PQ as its hypotenuse, the area of this right angle triangle is 6 units, 6 square units. Now, when this happens, a very big mistake which most people do, and this is another trap that GMAT sets for you, is that you start assuming that the other two sides are 3 and 4. Many people assume it this way, that the other two sides are 3 and 4, and they use the formula of half into base into height, and then calculate the value of the area as 6, and they think that 2 is also correct. Statement 2 is also correct, but that's not the case. What you have assumed here is that the sides need to be integral. There is nothing mentioned about the sides being integral of the right angle triangle. It only says that it is a right angle triangle. I can also have another right angle triangle with the values like this, 5 underscore root 2, okay, where this angle will be 45 degrees. Okay, I can have multiple other right angle triangles also. Because the hypotenuse is 5, I have no idea about the base and the height. And if I take this case into consideration, the area of this right angle triangle will be 25 by 4, which is not 6 square units, which is 6.25 square units, slightly different from 6. So statement 2 is not always true. Remember guys, if you got trapped with just this because you thought that it is possible that the area can be 6, yes, it is possible that the area of the right angle triangle can be 6. It is one possible case, but that is not 100% certainty. I need to find statements which should be true. So 1 is sufficient, 2 is not, 1 is true, 2 is not always true. So which basically means B cannot be the answer and E cannot be the answer. That is for sure. And even C cannot be the answer. So now I only need to check whether 3 is sufficient or not. What is given in statement 3? Let's see that. The diameter of the circle passing through P and Q is 5. Now when that happens, most people again assume that P and Q basically are two extremes. That is something which is given. That is what we know. But most people assume that PQ is the diameter itself. This is the biggest chord in the circle. It is also possible that the circle looks something like this. Again, don't mind me for the don't mind my drawing skills. Again, it does not look like a circle, but it could be that the circle looks something like this, where PQ are just 2 points on the circumference, and this line segment joining them is not the longest chord. It is just one chord of the right circle, and the diameter is something else altogether. Right? So those of you who marked D as the correct answer, like D as the correct answer, did not understand this. So statement 3 is also not sufficient. So the right answer is choice A, and I'm happy that most of you got it right. So are you guys clear with this question completely? Quick yes, no, just to make sure, because I don't see any questions from you guys. Just want to make sure that you guys are clear with this question. Okay, great guys. Thank you so much. I'm happy to see that all of you are clear with this question. So what was the learning from this question? Always draw and visualize things if required. Do not just assume things. Do not just think about one scenario. Always take multiple scenarios. Don't jump to conclusions. And if the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle is 5, it does not mean that the sides are 3, 4, 5. Don't assume it. This is one assumption which a lot of people make. Please don't assume it. Unless it is written that the sides are integral, you cannot assume that. Okay. If a circle is passing through 2 points P and Q, it does not mean PQ is the diameter of the circle. And trust me guys, this is one mistake which many people do. Okay. Let's move to question 4 with that. All right. So this is a different question. You have a couple of minutes again to solve this question. I'll be muted in this couple of minutes when you are solving the question. All the more maybe. So if you have not answered the question, quickly do that. You have 10 seconds more to answer it. Because I think I've already given a lot of time for this question. Just want to make sure that we move forward. Okay, guys. So I'm ending the poll now. How was this question? In the mean, you can share your thoughts in the chat. In the meantime, I'll just quickly note down the accuracy, like the number of votes each option has got. So 41% of you think that A is the correct answer. 8% go with choice B. 16% of you went with choice C. 12% went with choice D. And 20% think that even both these pieces of information are not sufficient. All right. So let's see what you guys think. Okay, lengthy is what Mayur says. Ann says it's time consuming. Lengthy but easy. Okay. Anubhav says it's medium. Okay, guys, I got to know that I have to take this webinar today itself, and yesterday night I kind of prepared for this webinar. So I was solving all these questions for the very first time. Before this, I have not solved these questions, obviously, and I'm out of touch with Quant from a long time. As in, probably in the last 2.5 years, I have not done a Quant test back to back. And when I was solving these questions, I did not have pen and paper with me. Okay, I did this question mentally, and even then I was able to solve this question within 1 minute correctly. Okay, so if you think it is time consuming or lengthy, probably you don't know the right method to solve it, or you have to, let's say, visualize it a little better. So let's quickly solve this question, understand what is the best method to solve this. So let's start with the question stem first. What I know is x is a positive integer. So what I know is x can be any one of 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Okay, what the question is asking me is x prime or not. Remember, this is a yes no type of a question. It's a yes no type of a question. I don't need to find the value of x. It is not important for me to find the value of x. What I'm concerned about here is to find whether it is prime or not. Till the point I'm getting a unique answer for that, I'm happy. Okay, how many of you thought on this way, Anna? Let me ask you in the poll. How many of you thought of it this way, that this is a yes no question and all I need to find is whether x is prime, yes or no? I don't need to find the value of x. All I need to find is whether x is prime or not. How many of you thought of this, man, or thought of it in this way, that I don't need the exact value of x? And please be very honest with me when you're answering the question over here. How many of you thought it like that? I know a lot of you would have thought it like this, but just still want to understand that. How many of you thought it like that, that x, I don't need to find the value of x. All I need to find is whether x is prime or not. Okay, so let me end the polls now. So I see about 2/3 of you did think in this way, but 1/3 of you have not thought in this way. So guys, this is a very important lesson. Please note it down if you want to. Remember, in yes no type of questions, you don't need to find the exact value. You only need to find whether you can conclusively answer a yes or no. That's all. Okay, so this is a very important lesson, guys. Now with that information in place, let's move to statement 1. Now statement 1 might look a little complex to you, but if you actually see it up close, there is an x cube which is common from the entire expression. So that kind of makes your job very, very easy. If you look at the expression within the bracket, this expression is a quadratic expression, and that can be easily factorized into 2 factors. Now, one of the roots is 5. Sorry, one of the roots is 4, and one of the roots is 1. Again, I'm not teaching you how to middle term factorize. This is not the scope of the session today, so I'm not getting into the depth of that, but it is very easy to represent x square minus 5x plus 4 as x minus 4 into x minus 1. Now, I know this x cube, out of this x cube can be written as x square into x. Now, why am I doing that? Because understand it this way, that x square is always positive. Okay, x square is always positive. So the value of x or x square is not going to impact the sign of this expression. If this expression itself is negative, then this expression with x square is also going to be negative. If this part of the expression is positive, then the expression with x square also is going to be positive, because x square is always positive or 0. Okay, and in this case it is positive because I know that x is not equal to 0. So I can ignore x square altogether. Now, once this is done, all you have to do is, when you have actually expressed the inequality in form of its factors, then all you have to do is draw a number line and plot all the 0 points. 0 points are the points at which each factor is equal to 0. For example, 0 point for this factor is going to be 0. At x equal to 0, this factor is equal to 0. The 0 point for this factor is 4. At x equal to 4, this x minus 4 is equal to 0. Similarly, the 0 point at this factor is 1. Because at x equal to 1, the factor x minus 1 is equal to 0. Okay. So, yeah, current x is given as positive integer, so we can actually ignore x square in this case. And even if it is not given as positive integer, x square will never have any impact on the sign of the expression. Okay. So Anubhav, we can think in that way that x cube also can be positive, but I would say it's always better that you remove x square and apply the constraints later. Otherwise, you might get yourself confused. So in my opinion, when you're solving an inequality, you should use the constraints later on. So in this case, I will not ask you to remove x cube altogether. In probably it may or may not affect, but in general, just to be on the safer side, don't take the constraints into account when you are actually plotting on the number line. Use the constraints only at the end. Okay, and I'll be doing that, don't worry. So what you do is you find out the 0 points, plot them on the number line, and then it's very simple after that. All you have to do is quickly see what is the what is the sign of the curve. See, always remember, when you plot the 0 points on the number line, the curve is gonna be positive for any value of x which is on the rightmost extreme. Then it switches the sign. It is gonna be, curve is gonna be negative. The value of this expression is gonna be negative for any value of x which lies between 1 and 4. Then it's gonna be positive again. Then it is gonna be negative again over here. Okay, so this is how you look at the curve. Now, the favorable region for me is when this expression is less than 0. What that means is I'm looking at the regions in which the expression is negative. So one region is this, another region is this. In these two regions, the expression's value is going to be negative. But since, so Anubhav, now focus on this part. So what I'm doing is I'm finding all favorable regions. So one favorable region is x less than 0. Another favorable region is x between 1 and 4. Now I will apply the constraints. What is the constraint? That x is a positive integer. I know that. So x less than 0, this case can be ignored because that is a constraint which is provided. So I can ignore this case. If I ignore that case, then the only suitable region for this expression is x between 1 and 4. Okay. And how many numbers are between 1 and 4 which are integers? There are only 2 of them, 2 and 3. Okay. And if you look at this, x, we know from this expression, it can be deduced that x is either 2 or 3. X is one of these two values. And the good thing is both 2 and 3 are prime numbers. Since both 2 and 3 are prime numbers, the answer to this question over here is x prime. From the information given in statement 1, I know that the answer to this question is yes. Okay, so that's why statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question. Okay, that basically means C cannot be the right answer, E cannot be the right answer, B cannot be the right answer as well. So what that means is those of you who marked B, C, and E, which is about 44% of you, or approximately half of you, have got it wrong. Okay. So that is something which you have to understand. All right, guys, let's move forward. Let's understand whether statement 2 is sufficient or not. Okay, wait, guys, let me go to that next slide. Yeah. So let's now focus on statement 2. So if I look at the statement, it can be written like this. I can take 12x to the power 5 on the left. So at this question, I would say, is about 700 level question for sure. Okay, so I can take x to the power 5 common from this. Then I have x squared minus x minus 12 less than 0. Now I have to middle term factorize again. Now 12 minus 12 can be written as, let's write it like this, plus 4 comma minus 3, or minus 4 comma plus 3, minus 6 comma plus 2, or minus 2 comma plus 6, or whatever, like, sorry, minus 6 comma plus okay, my bad, like this. But I'm looking at a number, the coefficient of x has to be minus 1, which is only possible when I take this factor. Okay, so I can write this as x to the power 5 multiplied by x minus 4 into x plus 3 less than 0. Okay, this is basically the thing. See, Gagan has another question. Gagan says, after taking x cube common, can't we use number substitution and check? So Gagan, you can use number substitution. I'm not saying that you cannot use it, but the question that you need to ask is whether that's going to be time effective or not. You can solve a question in multiple ways, but what we are focusing on here is to understand what is the most effective way to solve a question. And always remember, number line method is going to be the most effective. I told you guys, I solved this question without pen and paper with me in less than 1 minute just because of the number line method. And it's very easy to visualize also, Kagan. It's going to be much more easier, and the chances of making an error is also very less. In substitution, many a times you cannot take the cases in the right manner. You end up making some calculation mistakes. You end up wasting extra time, and you can get a poor score also. So it doesn't make sense to put your effort on a substitution again. So this is how I factorize this expression. And again, I will write it as x to the power 4 into x, because again, x to the power 4 is always going to be positive. So I'll just ignore it, and I will just focus on this expression. Now let's look at the 0 points. The 0 point for this factor is 0. The 0 point for this factor is 4. The 0 point for this factor is -3. So I'll plot the number line. I'll plot the 0 points. And I will then look at the curve's value. It is going to be positive here, negative here, positive over here, negative over here. What is the favorable region I'm looking at? I'm looking at a value which is negative for this expression. So this region is favorable. This region is favorable. So x can be less than -3, and x can be between 0 and 4. Now from the constraints, I know x is a positive integer. So this case is not possible. The only case which is possible is x is between 0 and 4. Now, if I know x is between 0 and 4, and I know x is a positive integer, there are 3 cases which are possible: 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now, if I ask the question, okay, x is equal to 1, 2, and 3 from statement 2, but if I ask the question, is x prime? The answer is yes for these two, because 2 and 3 are prime, but the answer is no for the value of 1. So in this case, I cannot conclusively answer this question in yes or no, because I cannot be sure whether x is prime or not. So statement 2 is not sufficient, and since statement 1 is sufficient, statement 2 is not sufficient. A is the correct answer. So I'm happy to know that 41% of you got it right, but those of you who marked C as the correct answer again did not take into account that there is nothing additional which is being provided from statement 2. In fact, it is giving you some piece of information which is only going to confuse you. Okay, so that's the learning from the question. We do not always need a unique value. You need to understand this part, guys. You do not need to always have a unique value to solve the question. Even a yes no type question, if you are able to conclusively answer yes or no, that is good enough. Okay, so I have a question from Tim. Tim is saying, wait, why do we take negative area between 0 to 4 instead of 0 to 3? Okay, Tim, let me show you that. So Tim, again, look at this. The curve is positive from 4 to infinity, negative between 0 and 4, positive between 0 and -3. For me, what I'm looking at is when this expression is negative. When is the expression negative? The expression is negative over here and over here. That is why I'm taking these two. I hope that answers your questions. Question? Okay, Vipul says, love this question, easy but interesting mix of basics. Good, happy to know that. Karan has a question. Can you please explain how the number line will look, positive negative regions, if the equality is greater than 0 instead of less than 0? See, Karan, the number line is not going to change. The expression always works like this. If you take any value of x from the rightmost region, the expression is always going to be positive. It doesn't matter what is the inequality sign over here. Okay, the inequality sign has to be taken into account after this is drawn. This will be exactly like this, irrespective of the inequality sign. The curve will always be positive on the rightmost region, then negative, then positive, and so on. So alternatively, it changes the sign. What you have to do is, and after you have identified the sign, you have to look at what is the favorable region. You are looking at values of x for which the expression is negative. So for you, the favorable regions will be this two. But if the expression had this inequality greater than 0, then instead of these two favorable regions, you would have taken these two as favorable regions. You got my point? Yeah, Karan, you always start with positive region on the right, and there's nothing to memorize over here. It's just that if you try to take any value of x which is greater than 4, all these factors will be positive. So the end result will be positive. So try to understand it logically, you will never forget it. Okay, why do you disregard x? I have not disregarded x, Adibovale. I have only disregarded the squares or the fourth powers, the even powers of x, because they do not have any impact. Imagine it this way: even if x is equal to -3 or 3, the value of x to the power 4 is going to remain the same, which is 81. So that value is not impacting on the sign of the expression. I'm not ignoring x. X I have already taken into account. That's why I have taken 10 point as 0. Okay. Why disregard x less than -3? Okay, good point, Adibole. Why have I disregarded x as less than -3? Focus on this part. Again, you are missing the constraint. It is clearly given that x is a positive integer. Okay. So the answer is A. Yes, Tim. The answer is A. Okay. Good. I guess I have taken up all the questions. Harsh had the question. While marking positive number in number line, you started with positive from the right hand side. Yes, Harsh. That's how we started. Okay. So great. I'm happy that I could answer all the questions, and I'm happy that questions came this time. Till now, I did not see a lot of doubts coming in. So I'm happy that you guys asked questions and I was able to clear them. Good, guys. So what were the learnings that we had? So first learning was that we do not always need a unique value. If it is a yes, no type of question, you only need to find a unique answer for yes or no. Inequality does not always mean we cannot find the answer. Also remember this part. Many a times people think that if there is an inequality, we cannot find the values of x. In this case, if you see, it was mentioned that x is a positive integer. So it was possible to find the values of x in this case. Multiple answers may fall under what is being asked. And this is what happened when we saw that region of 1 and 4. There were 2 values of x which were possible, but were still giving us the answer. Okay. Let's move to question number 5 now. And this is again a different question, word problems question for you guys. So you have about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to solve this question as well. All the best for this question. I'm going to be muted for 1.5 minutes. All right, guys. So how was this question? I've ended the poll now. How did you find this question? Amna says it's an interesting question. What about others? How did you find this question? In the meantime, I'll just note down the poll results. Most of you, I think, went with statement E. 30% of you went with C, and only 3% of, I guess, one student went for statement B and D. 61% of you went with statement E. Medium difficulty, S1 found it difficult, Aditya found it easy. Okay, what about others, guys? And what was difficult about this question, guys? What was difficult? I gave up on the question and went with E. This is what says Tim. I know, Tim, that is what a good number of people would have done. The trick in this question, the trap in this question, GMAT sets for you is that they're not giving you absolute values. So many times when you don't have absolute values, people tend to give up too soon. And trust me, guys, if you actually understand the conceptual understanding of percentages, you have a clear clarity on concepts, this question can actually be answered in 30 seconds without putting pen to paper. So Anubhav, I would say this question is just about 700 level, simply because of the fact that there might be some calculations involved in this question if you want to solve it algebraically. Otherwise, if you know it conceptually, it is very easy question to solve, in my opinion. Okay, as I said, it could be answered in 30 seconds if you go conceptually. But I'll actually help you guys solve it in both manners, like in conceptual fashion, also in algebraic fashion also. But we'll start with algebra first, which is a lengthier method, and then we will talk about conceptual understanding. The conceptual understanding requires conceptual clarity, a high level of conceptual clarity. So some people may not be able to understand it. That's why I'm going to talk about it later on. But we'll first start with algebraic understanding, and then we'll move to conceptual understanding. So let's do that. Did John save at least 18% less in February than in January? Okay, so what this question is asking me is about the savings of John. Now, the moment I know about savings, I know that savings is equal to income minus expenditure. So what the question asks is that is John's saving at least 18% less? What it means is it 18% or more, plus 18% or more lower than the savings that were there in January? That is what the question is asking me. I'm only interested in knowing whether the savings have reduced by 18% or more, in simple terms. So if I rephrase this question, I can rephrase that: did the savings of John reduce by 18% or more in February as compared to January? That's what this question says. Let's look at statement 1. John's monthly income is 18% less than his monthly income in January. Okay, so statement 1 tells me only about the income. It tells me that the income of John went down by 18%. Now, since savings is equal to income minus expenditure, I only know information about income. I cannot conclude anything about the expenditure from this. And that's why statement 1 is not sufficient and A is not the right answer. And I'm very glad that most of you picked that out. In fact, most of you understood that we need information about both income and expenditure. That's why none of you, like very few of you picked B or D also. Because that basically means even one statement is sufficient. So that part of your understanding is clear. Okay. Similarly, if you look at B, what statement 2 rather, it tells me that John's monthly expenditure in February was 15% less than the expenditure in January. So from this information, from statement 2, I'm only knowing about the expenditure bit. I'm not knowing anything about the income bit. So clearly statement 2 is also not sufficient. So I definitely need to combine both these pieces of information to get my answer. Now let's do it algebraically. As I said, let's combine both the pieces of information algebraically. So let's look at January. Okay, let's assume that in January the savings was S, the income was I, the expenditure was E. Okay, so if I look at February, what happened in February? I know that in February the income reduced to by 82%, 18%. So the income in February was 0.82 times of I. And what was the expenditure in February? The expenditure in February was 0.85 times of E. So what was the saving? The saving was, let us call it S2. The saving was this. I guess all of you agree with this? All of you agree with this? Quick yes, no, guys. Savings in February was 0.82I minus 0.85E. Is that clear to you guys? Is that clear to you guys? Are you clear with this, guys? Are you guys clear with this part? Okay, great. I'm happy to see this. Great, guys. So let me quickly reset the poll. Okay. Tim says no. Okay, so Tim, understand it. The income was 18% less. So if I reduce 18% of I, 18% of I is this much. And if I reduce this from I, this is the value of income that remains, which is 0.82 I. Okay, again, I'm not explaining it in more depth because this is then a conceptual gap. You have to work on it separately. Similarly, the expenditure is 0.85 E. So the saving is 0.82 I, which is the now current income and the current expense. Now I have to try and somehow find the difference between basically the salary difference. So S2 minus S by S. This is what I'm comparing. I want this percentage value to be less than 18% or more. So this value is what I have to calculate, right? So let's try and calculate this. In simple terms, if I have to write it, I can write it like this. Wait, where do I? Let me take it to the next screen, guys. Okay. So I know S2 is 0.82I. Okay. I know S is I minus E. I'm focused on finding whether this value, okay, is greater than 18 or not. That's my objective of finding. Okay, again, conceptually it can be solved in much quicker fashion, but let's do it mathematically instead. So S2 is, wait. Okay, 18% less. Yeah, so my bad, guys. It should be S minus S2 because S is bigger, right? I'm just thinking about that. Okay, this is what I'm interested in. So let's quickly find this out. If I actually calculate this very quickly, it will be 0.18i, and then I have minus 0.15i by I minus E multiplied by 100%. All right, till this point, I think this should be okay for all of you. I'll just open the bracket and have to calculate the values. Okay, now I have to see whether it is more than 18% or not. So I'm doing some manipulation over here. What I'm doing is I'm writing this as 0.5s, 0.15s, something like this. Why am I doing that? Okay, wait, sorry. This is not I, this is E. Okay, this is E. Why am I doing that? For simple reason that that will help me actually get I minus E out of the picture. That will get me I minus E out of the picture for one case at least. So this will be actually, let me multiply by 100 right away. Okay. So Harsh, what you are saying is that conceptually you're answering in that manner. You can do that. And as I said, I solved this question in 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds. You can do that. But I want you guys to understand it mathematically also. Okay. So let's quickly subtract this. So what I get is, this is 18 plus this number. So if you have to understand it this way, that I'm getting 18 plus something else. All I am interested in finding out is this positive or not. See, this is clearly positive. Why am I saying that this is positive? Because I know E expenditure was positive, and I know that last time he saved something. So I minus E is also positive. That is also something which is known to me. So this is something positive over here, something positive over here with 18. Okay, so this is clearly more than 18%. See, Diksha, you can assume income as 100, but what will you assume as expenditure in that case? You can assume expenditure, you have to then assume expenditure as E, right? You cannot assume expenditure as something, another number, then you will be making a mistake. Okay, so this is how you have to solve it mathematically. Is this part clear to all of you? Again, this is slightly lengthy. Mathematically doing it is lengthy, time consuming also, and that's why probably this becomes a 700 level question. But if you do it logically, conceptually, it is much more easier to solve. Okay, great. I'm happy to know that all of you are clear about this mathematically. Great, guys. Thank you so much. Let's now try and solve this conceptually. See, what I know is that in January, okay, wait, yes, guys. In January, whatever my income and expense was, okay, my income in Feb went down by 18%. Okay, my income in Feb went down by 18%. Okay, my income in expenditure, on the other hand, went down only by 15%. Okay, so basically what I know in this case is that in this scenario, my income has gone down by 18% and I have reduced my expenditure. Okay, so in any scenario, the answer is definitely not gonna be 18%, because if I actually reduce my income by 18% and my expenditure, if my income reduced by 18%, let's say, and my expenditure also reduced by 18%, think of it like this, guys. Understand it. If your income is 18% less than last month, if you also reduce your expenditure by 18%, then your savings will also reduce by 18%. Am I right or not? If your salary somehow gets halved, okay, in 1 month, you also decrease your expenditure to half, then your saving will also be halved. That will exactly work in that manner. Similarly, if your income reduced by 18%, you also reduce your expenditure by 18%, then your savings will be also 18%. It will also reduce by 18%, right? This is clear to all of you guys conceptually? Again, I just want to make sure that all of you are clear with this conceptually. Quick yes, no, guys. Is this part clear? That if your income reduces by 18%, your expenditure reduces by 80%, then savings should also reduce by 18%, right? Okay, great, guys. So obviously, if one of these two things is not reducing by 18%, then my savings will be either more than 80% or less than 80%. And the moment you can understand this, you know that you can answer this question by combining, because the answer will be either yes or no, one of the two. If you want to know which one of the two is the answer, you can do that as well. You can go to that level of understanding also, but you don't need to in reality. But let's still do that for the purpose of learning. So I know that my income went down by 18%, but my expenditure did not come as down. My expenditure did not come as much down. So obviously my savings would have reduced further. My savings would have depleted further, maybe 20, maybe 22, maybe 19. I don't know how much, but it would have definitely depleted further. So the answer to this question is yes. Okay, and that's why C is the correct answer. So conceptually, if you solve this question, okay, it is very easy to solve in less than 30 seconds also. You don't need to do it mathematically. But even if you don't know that, you can still do it mathematically. It can be slightly more difficult. So is this clear to you guys? Is this approach clear to you guys? Quick yes, no? Quick yes, no, guys? Okay. Great, guys. I'm ending the poll now. Okay, great, guys. So what was the learning? So do proper analysis, and remember that lack of absolute value does not always mean we cannot find the answer, and always avoid the E trap. Always never fall for the E trap. So this is the final question that we have, guys, over here for the day. Again, I have giving you 2 minutes to solve this question.